Let's continue working with graphs involving phase shift. I'd like to do a couple functions where the coefficient on x is negative and see how we handle phase shift in this situation. Well, for phase shift, we're going to restrict ourselves to where the coefficient on x is positive before we set our argument equal to 0. So the first step here is going to be to manipulate our argument a little bit to get a positive coefficient on x. So the first thing I'm going to do is factor out a negative 1 inside our argument. And recall from earlier videos that cosine is an even function. So cosine of a negative argument is equal to cosine of the positive of that argument. These expressions are equal, and now I have an argument where the coefficient on x is positive, so I can go ahead and think about phase shift and period. The phase shift, set our argument equal to 0, so 2x is equal to pi, x is pi over 2. And the period, well, the period for cosine of just plain x is 2 pi, so we'll take 2 pi and divide by the coefficient on x to get a period of pi. So let's look at the graph. So I'll mark off my phase shift of pi over 2. And then I have a period of a pi, so my first cycle is going to go up to 3 pi over 2. Right? And I want to chop my period into quarters. So that's going to be, my period was pi, so quarters are going to be pi over 4. Right? So I'm going to think about these. Think about this as 2 pi over 4. And think about this guy as 6 pi over 4. And that's going to help me think about what these quarters subintervals should look like, right? I'm going to add pi over 4 to 2 pi over 4 and get 3 pi over 4. Add another pi over 4 to get 4 pi over 4, which is just pi. And then 5 pi over 4. So there I have the subintervals for my cycle. The amplitude, we never changed the amplitude on this guy, so it's still 1. And we have the cosine curve, so I'm going to start at a peak, go down to 0, down to -1, and back up. So there's one cycle of this cosine curve.